Welcome, everyone, to episode 294 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pantelleresco. I write stuff in podcast 2. Today, my guest is Chuck Pineau. I'm taking a little quick break from the Aurora series, as Chuck is a Canadian-born comic book creator that currently lives in the United States, and we had a great little chat about comics in general, why they're awesome, and what is indie. I mean, this was a really interesting chat. I really enjoyed it, and Chuck was a pleasure to have. This week I released a blog about my interview style, kind of how it evolved over time. Special shout out to Simon Rose for definitely giving me the take I have today. Outside of that, today's kind of special. Barring anything unforeseen, I have basically eliminated, this is my last day working the warehouse as just a physical laborer. I'm still going to be there for about another month or so, but it's kind of done. Kind of excited to see what comes next. I'm finishing packing up my books. This move has been interesting because I realized how many things I'm going to be getting rid of in the next little bit. And yeah, one of the things I constantly, all these moves teach me more and more is how little people really need in terms of things. It's actually incredible. But a waxing philosopher at that another time. Let's just get to our conversation with Chuck, shall we?
This episode of Just Joshing is sponsored by Indie Imprint. Indie Imprint supports creators by creators. Whether you are writing a book or creating a video game, Indie Imprint works with its clients to produce, edit, and present their projects to the world. For more information, check out their website at www.indieimprint.com. Claudio Murgan is the author of 2 novels, The Decadence of Our Souls and Water Entanglement. The Decadence of Our Souls is a cross between a spiritual book and a thriller, and in Water Entanglement, Claudio delivers a well-written, convincing snapshot of water scarcity into the future. What will you do when you realize that water has memory, water is alive, and that the time for her to awaken is now? The novels are available as an ebook or in print through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or any other major bookstore. The audiobook will be available soon. For more info, look at claudiomorgan.com.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I totally agree. I've had to do that where you're like wrangling people in.
Yeah, well, it's just, okay, so I've turned the recorder on. I'm just going to let you know that right now. We'll just start from this point. We'll see where the hell we go. Does that work for you?
Okay.
Well, yeah. So moderation's fun. I mean, that's a different role, though. When you are a moderator, your job is to make sure everybody's actually saying something. That's your job. That's it. No more, no less. So any question I would ask would be something to get everybody talking. That's my job. Once everybody's talking, I back off and I let them talk. If there's an allotted time, I cut it at the time. But that's it. That's my job. Whereas an interview, if it's a good interview, I don't know. Did you listen to any of my episodes prior to this?
Yes, I did actually. I enjoyed one where you were out to dinner with the guy, and you guys actually did your order there and everything. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious.
Yes. Con. You did the Con Lowry interview. Yes. No. No. But see, so that's partly my philosophy of the show. But the thing about that was it's just a real conversation. Those are the best ones because then there's no questions and it feels organic. You don't want. I can ask questions. Don't get me wrong, and I have, and I will continue to do so. I've done actually several hundred interviews now. I can't believe I actually can say that, but it's true. That's true.
It's funny that that's your philosophy because I have an indie comic review YouTube channel. And I call it Chuck's Raw Reviews, and it's because I just turn on the camera and start talking about a book that I just finished reading. And so it is my raw emotions on how I feel about that book immediately after having read it. And so yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, and I love that organic feel to reporting and to just podcasting.
Oh, yeah, a lot of podcasts try to keep the conversation as organic as possible, but there's definitely a pre-production value to it. And it's handy, don't get me wrong. You know, I probably should be a little more produced than I am sometimes, but it doesn't feel real. Like okay, me keeping the order in, for example, right? I kept the order in because it's real. It's absolutely 100% real. It happens in life. You go out, you meet up, there's going to be an order, right? Somewhere. The waitress is going to come by and say hi. There's going to be a random conversations that will happen for whatever the reason is, you know? So I find it like it's better to embrace it. Also, nobody does it, so I'm as long as no one steals from me, or if they steal, they just give me credit for it. I mean, it's all good, you know.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man.
You're welcome.
So okay, let's ask a question though. How do you define independent comic, an indie comic?
It's funny because that's a very divisive question.
It is.
You would think that it's very cut and dry, because each of us in our own heads knows what indie comics is, but almost none of us have the same envision. And it even goes from like company to company. Are they considered indie comics? For me, there's like levels of indie.
Okay.
And so I like to think, I'm on the ground level indie comics, kind of. I've done some self-publishing. I've worked with some minor publishing companies as a freelance editor, and so that to me is indie comics. But I also feel like probably down the road you might do like something for IDW or Image or something. And you're like, no, this is still indie comics. So I'm just being open to the idea that later down the road, I might realize I was wrong.
Yeah, well, it totally, like, there's definitely some aspects of that. Like, for me, this is my dividing line. IDW to me is a company, a small company or a mid-sized company, depending on your point of view, but a company. Image, on the other hand, some of it is definitely company. Like, there are lines in Image that definitely are company run and driven. But there is also a lot more. There are some balls to the wall books in Image. Like, they're just produced. They just go for it. And and some of the production about it, like right now for Image, I like Reaver, Justin Jordan's book. I really, really enjoy it. I've enjoyed Birthright the whole way through. You can make that argument. Maybe that one's more company, even though that's Josh's book. You can tell that's his book. But and I'm also enjoying. I really enjoyed the first issue of Coffin Bound. That was fantastic. I really hope that continues. And believe it or not, I decided Snot Girl was a good book. It took me a while to figure out if it was or not, but once I figured it out, it's like, okay, it's a good book.
That's cool. Yeah. I have to be honest. I mostly only read the indie comics, So and that's mostly just because most of the people I'm supporting on Kickstarter are our fellow creators and friends and stuff, and so we kind of support each other, and so I read a lot of their stuff. I review a lot of their stuff. So yeah, I haven't read any Big Two or any of the bigger, like even IDW or Image or anything, in probably about 4 or 5 years.
All right. So we'll see what's the bottom line. Terry Moore, do you read him?
I have.
Yeah, I love his stuff. That's me personally. I love his stuff.
Didn't he do Strangers in Paradise?
Yes, he did. My personal favorite run of his is Motor Girl. But I like Rachel Rising as well. Zoe's one of my favorite characters ever. I've never met a serial killer I liked quite so much. That's Terry Moore for you.
Awesome.
Yes. But see, like true indie, I love Badassical. John Fleming, Colette Turner do amazing work. I think their stuff is top notch. I really, really enjoy it. I love Dirk Manning. Anything Dirk Manning does tends to be really, really, really good. I really dig him. I'm a big Andrew Lawrence fan. I'm sad he hasn't done anything in a long time. I just saw his Facebook post the other day, and I was like, I'm happy he's okay, but I really wish, I would love to see more comics from him. I'm just being, my own opinion.
I mean, is that really the worst thing to say to a guy? Like,
no,
hey man, I'm glad you're okay, but I really love your work, and I'd love for you to do more of it. Like, if someone said that to me, it's a fucking compliment. Like, Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll get well as good as I can. So, yeah, no, I wouldn't be. You're very Canadian. I love that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's who I am, man.
Well, I'm from. I was born and raised in, so I feel it. Game knows game,
Yeah. No, it's cool. No, like I say, this has also been the nature of my podcast. I started off as primarily, although I do have guests now from all over the world, and I said that out loud, and it still feels surreal to me. But most of my guests are Canadian. And, I mean, this rest of the month, all my guests are Canadian. They're all the Aurora finalists. So,
That's cool.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just like for me, I truly believe this, and I say this. I did my 300th episode about 3 weeks ago, and like I recorded it, and I said this. I truly believe Canadians are some of the most talented people in the world. I think the biggest problem Canadians have is they don't believe it.
Yeah. You know when we did believe it? Comedians.
Yes.
We have some of the best fucking comedians on the planet.
We do.
You got guys like John Candy, Mike Myers, Jim Carrey. Like, these guys are top notch, some of the best in the world, and they were the best in the world at their peaks, you know?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, man, like, there's certain things that we just know. You know, hockey, dude, we are the best. If we get a second place, we might as well have not even medaled. Like, we don't.
Yes, sometimes.
Like,
I'm a little bit more forgiving now because honestly, the rest of the hockey world's caught up to us a little bit. I mean, we're definitely always in the mix, which is where we always should be. But I mean, if Slovakia or Sweden or Russia wins, I'm okay with that. I just don't want the States to win. I'm just being honest.
See, I live in the States right now, and I still agree with you. They're so smug about it. It's very frustrating. It's just like, yeah, see, we beat you at your game. I'm like,
well, but in all fairness, they should be. They should be smug at like that because they won, and it is our game. It is the game we work really hard at, and when they beat us, they should gloat. The problem is, I mean, hell, the Raptors won the championship.
yeah.
I know that rankled a lot of people down in the States. Like, what do you?
Someone said to me, it did. And it's funny, someone said to me, they go, because Kawhi left the team, and they're like, you know, you're not going to get another one, right? And I'm like, we don't give a shit. We just wanted the one. Like, we were left out. When it came to talk about championships, we didn't get mentioned. Now we're in the conversation. That's fucking all we care about. We don't need a dynasty or any bullshit like that. We just want to be remembered. What happened? Raptors won. Suck it. You can never take that from us.
Exactly.
That's all we wanted.
That's pretty much it, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how by hook or by crook we won. So we got it. I mean, I do think. I mean, I do know this. Even if Kawhi wins in the Clippers, he's never going to get a parade like that ever again, right? I think that. Like I said, it was a cool moment. It was a very, very cool moment. I'm still going to get myself a Kawhi Leonard Raptors jersey because honestly, why the hell not? Even if he'll never play again up here. That's cool. But I mean, hey, 1 year, 1 championship. Why not?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Actually, I'm very well known for wearing my backwards hats, and for the weeks afterwards, it was the backwards Raptors hat every day.
Absolutely. Because again, that's just pride. So when they kick our butts in hockey, it's fair. It's fair game. You can't take it from them. Right?
Yeah, no, I feel you. Yes, no, that was a perfect way of explaining it from one Canadian to another. That's exactly the perfect way to explain it. I'm totally with you.
Yeah, that's it. You gotta be you gotta be a gracious loser. We don't want it, right? So you have to be a gracious loser because that way it's much more sweeter when you finally win. It's true. It's true, right? And that's how I look at it, right? If you're gracious as when defeat, it gives you the access or the ability to be glorious in success. You can be a sore winner. It's totally fine because you were a gracious loser.
It's deep.
I know. Trying. It's 10 o'clock at night over here, so I mean, I don't know how deep we can get at that point, but we try.
30, but I'm down for some deepness, so yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So what was your comic that you loved as a kid?
What was a comic that I loved as a kid?
Yes.
Absolutely X-Men. It was always X-Men, never not.
So I'm gonna let it in a confession. I didn't actually start really reading an X-Men book until my adult years. I just always thought there was too many X-Men books. Got older, I finally said, that's great. I gotta try one at least. So my favorite one for the last 3 or 4 years was X-Men Red.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, see, I haven't been reading it the last probably 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. I can't blame you.
I've heard good things.
Yes. Oh no, X-Men Red was a old school X-Men book. I really enjoyed it, and then now Jonathan Hickman's doing what he's doing, and I'm sure Marvel is making sure he's got a shocky monkey on, make sure he turns in his scripts on time. But that all said, like I said, X-Men for me it was Green Lantern. That was mine. So
Okay.
yeah. So which X-Men run would you like?
I mean, as a Canadian and, a short, hairy little dude, it was Wolvie all the time. And it wasn't just because he was the biggest badass. It was because the level of subtlety, and this is obviously not as of the last, say, 15 or 20 years, but back then, it's 70s, 80s, 90s, he was a very subtle character.
Yes.
And you had to pull things out to get any information about him. And I have to say, one of my favorite Wolverine moments is Wolverine 76, I believe it is, or 75. It's one of those two. Yeah, I think it's 75. And he had just had the adamantium taken out of him.
Oh, okay.
He's sitting under a tree with Jubilee beside him, and his hand is all wrapped up, and he pops his claws, and she goes, well, why are you doing that? And this is the first time we get to see the bone claws. Like, that's just badass. And she says, why are you doing that? And he said, because I can't let the wounds cauterize. I have to keep opening them back up so that the claws can come out easier.
That's right.
Because it was healing over. And she said, does it hurt? And he goes, yeah, like a bitch. And I mean, just like you realize at that point he had to rip through his own skin every time he wanted to attack someone. Like, that's a ridiculous concept to understand, that I want to take down this motherfucker so bad that I'm going to stab myself from the inside out.
Yeah, no, I
like
that run in particular, I think, is underrated. I think Claremont was. They actually asked him, or at the time, it was like, so when are you going to have the adamantium put back into him? He says, if I had my way, never. He's much more interesting like this without it.
Yeah, he was, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, the way that they got the adamantium back in him was really disappointing, because Eric Larson, who normally, he's done great work, Savage Dragon, all that kind of stuff, but he basically, for me, I didn't appreciate the run, because he just spent every single issue that he did proving that Wolverine wasn't strong enough without the adamantium. And I'm like, you're spending your entire run proving that our favorite character isn't good enough. That sucks. And several of those issues, he ended up having to go up against Galactus. Even with the fucking adamantium, he's nothing. So what are you doing, man? It was, I don't like to call out other writers, right? I don't know. I feel kind of dickish saying it, but that was a move that I was really not a fan of.
My least favorite Eric Larson run was his Aquaman run. I really did not like it. I'm not saying he hasn't done brilliant stuff. He's probably one of the best idea mans in comics, in all seriousness. But
I love his work. Yeah, but I mean,
but it's like everything else. Hey, listen, you write enough, but you write enough. You're gonna bat out some stinkers or things that just don't click for whatever reason. For me, that was his Aquaman run. I just did not like it. He was following Peter David, and they apparently had a history, and which is unfortunate. I do think Larson never got really maybe the run on Aquaman he wanted, but I just that was my thing. And it sounds like with Wolverine is kind of the same thing. Maybe the goal was always to get the adamantium back, and they said this is how you got to get there. So maybe that's what he did. Who knows?
That's possible.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, when you look at comics like the big two, a lot of these characters, especially popular characters, they're company mandated how they move. They don't. It's very rare that you see for example, Justice League, Dwayne McDuffie. He didn't have any say in that run at all. He basically was given characters he could use. he did the best he could, and every so often the rug got pulled out from under him, and it wasn't like he was upset about it. It just, that was the business. It's like, well, I had this story I was working on, I can't do that anymore, so we gotta go in this direction. Oh, this story doesn't work, gotta go on, gotta do it in this direction. I mean, that's what happens when you deal with popular properties. You don't always have the say of where you'd like to go with them.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is why indie comics are so fun, because you can come up with your own stuff.
Absolutely, and that's my favorite thing about it is that you can read other people's stuff. You can go, look, like you can do anything, and this is what you did. And sometimes that's said in a positive, like, dude, this is what you did. And sometimes that's a negative. You can do anything, and this is what you did. So, like, there's a huge, wide range, and it's really cool watching that widen.
So here's my fun question, and it's fun is the key word in this. What's more important, a good story or a fun story?
Oh boy, that really, I don't want to play the wishy-washy answer, but I would say that really a lot of times almost depends on your genre and your feel. Sometimes, like, if you're doing, that's tough, because you have things like the cheesy 80s horror movies and stuff, and it's like a lot of times they were just fun, and you can't take them seriously. And yet, then you put it up against, like, for me, a 90s movie like The Usual Suspects, which that story to me is just so amazing and so awesome and fun to watch, but intelligent.
Yeah.
And so, it really just depends almost on the genre or where you're at. I think they're both really important, but it's almost like if you have one, lean into it.
See,
and I love that.
Well, see, for me, I've said this on other podcasts, Dr. Seuss is one of my favorite graphic novelists. Right? That's my opinion. He's one of the greatest, I think, 3 graphic novelists of all time. And he definitely was the embracing of fun. Told a story, but it was they were always like, they were designed to be silly. Look at like comics historically, like Superman. Superman's a silly character, and in the 60s and 70s, he was told in a very silly, fun way, and it worked, right? And I look at something modern like Axe Cop, world class artist, and a 10-year-old narrated the story. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing, right? So for me, I think a good comic has to either have a great story, and then and in terms of tone, execution, and what's the term in the art? Like, everything has to fit together, or it has to be fun. It doesn't have to take itself so seriously, but it's telling the story it can, and maybe not the best way. But it puts a smile on your face when you read it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it absolutely does. Actually, it really does. It's funny because in my last book, Belial, I feel like I really tried to find where that line is between the two. What can I do that's both really fun and comes off as a good story? And so I really hope that it hits the way that I wanted it to. And, I mean, to me as a reader, it did, until it really gets out there and you hear it kind of taken apart and dealt with. You don't know for sure.
So did you have fun writing it?
Oh my gosh, yeah, and reading it too.
Yeah, then you probably are onto something. I'm serious. Look, I as incredibly dorky as it sounds, doesn't matter what like medium you play with. If you as a creator are having fun, if you as a creator are laughing or crying or feeling something in what you're putting out there, chances are your audience will too.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So if the goal was fun, but yet also a good story, and you feel you did the best you could, it's probably really good, dude.
Sweet. Well, thank you, man.
Yeah. Well, it's what I do. I encourage people to. It's kind of my other superpower. Don't tell anybody, though, okay? Nobody.
I mean, I won't, but hopefully they listen to this.
I take myself very seriously too, as you can tell. But I mean, that's the thing about this is, right? Like, we're all trying to tell, like, whatever story is inside us, right? We're trying to tell it to the best of our abilities. And now, hopefully, as we get older, we get better. I feel that comes down to a couple things. One, our voices evolve because we got more experiences added to our lives. We deal with more things, and hopefully, we grow. Hopefully, not always the case, but I have that hope for most people. All right, right,
Yeah.
and so your voice changes. Flip side, my biggest fear as a creative person is I run out of things to say that are new or relevant or different. I love Ray Bradbury is one of my favorite authors of all time, but at the end of his life, he was saying the same things he did at the very beginning, and the stuff at the beginning, although it wasn't as technically sound as the stuff at the end, it was better because the emotion was realer. He was tapping into, like, when it's that first time you tap into something. You feel like you really, really care. Like, that passion is, you can't duplicate it. It's just so hard to. Older, you might be smarter about how you do some things, but you can't, like, there's something about that passion that is very special, and you can't duplicate it.
Yeah, you can't fake raw.
Yeah.
Like that real, honest passion.
Absolutely.
You can't get. I mean, you can try it, and some can do it better than others. But at the end of the day, someone who truly fucking cares about that, it will soak through. Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. So, for me, at this point in my life, I'm at the point now where I'm trying to have fun. I have a novel coming out soon about a very cowardly character. He follows a girl and a gun blade into the cloud, the digital cloud, and he gets a file that zombie mobsters and unicorns that fight rainbows want. And his only salvation is the girl with the gunblade, who may or may not like him very much. It's My Matrix meets Indiana Jones. I'm not trying to tell, like, the biggest, like, most earth-shattering story ever. I'm just trying to tell a fun story. And I'm okay right now having fun.
That's going to be a novel?
Yeah. It's done.
No. Sorry, I'm saying that because it's such a graphic idea.
Yes, it is.
You know what I mean? Like as you're explaining everything, I'm envisioning it.
Yes.
And so it's funny that's a novel because I think down the road it would make a fantastically fun graphic novel. Just
my secret dream is if anything I ever do becomes an animated series, this would be it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like every project has its own end game. You know what I mean? Like, you do it because you love you love that story and you want to do it in the way that it should be originally done. So, if you're doing this as a novel, that's the original intention. But down the road, what could it become? With Belial, I think the best thing it could become is like a cool, fun, like Adult Swim miniseries. And I would love that, and I think that would be so much fun. But like with other things that I've done, it's like no, maybe a singular movie or a ongoing gritty drama TV show. But like I think every story has its own genre and its own medium that eventually it would do best with.
Yeah, I do think I think the important thing is to make sure that, like, okay, The Cloud Diver, the novel I just talked about here, it's a novel. If it never becomes anything more than a novel, I'm good with it. I told the story I wanted to tell. I had a blast doing it. Working on Cloud Diver 2 right now, which my main character gets punched in the face a lot. That seems to be the recurring theme of the story. But besides all that, I know the story is going to be told this way. I'm happy if it ever evolves beyond that point. Great. If it does, I mean, for me, again, a cartoon or a video game would also be amazing because I kind of wrote it with a video game theme in mind, and so I would be super happy either way. But if it never comes, I'm good because the original intention was the book. I figured let the book tell the story. Like I said, maybe I would think of this differently if I had $1 million, but I don't. So
yeah, totally.
But that's kind of how I see it. Like for you, like Belial's was always intended to be a graphic novel, right?
Yeah.
So do you draw or do you just write?
I'm a writer and editor.
A writer and editor. So for you, I guess one of the things that is always talked about, and I know this is like the never-ending struggle, finding a good artist that you can afford. What's your secret?
Yeah. Network. Talk to, make your own group of friends, and kind of, and that does clicky. Like, you can certainly connect with as many people as you want, however you want, but having a group of people that you can go, hey man, I need them at like the $40 a page range for pencils, but I want something that looks pretty good. Who do you think? And they'll throw out some names and you'll check it out, and actually I have seen his stuff. I really like that. I didn't realize he was that inexpensive. That's awesome. So I think networking is a huge help there, because we all want to see everybody else succeed.
Absolutely.
And just because you use the same artist mean that that there's no competition there. You know what I mean? It's just I love what they're doing with you, and I would love them to add that magic to what I'm doing. So yeah, man, that's my suggestion.
Well, that's a good suggestion. No, man, one of the things I've learned too is that, honestly, as much as sometimes others would argue with this one with me, we're not in competition with each other. We really aren't. It's not about that. We all offer a unique voice. We just do. Like the voice that we. I can get the idea I gave you with my cloud diver. You could take it and you can tell your own story with it, and it would be completely different than mine. And because I don't have your point of view, I don't have your voice, I don't have your storytelling skills or your medium skills in your medium. I can't do it the way you do it, and vice versa, right?
Yeah, absolutely, vice versa. Yeah.
Right. I have my own level of crazy that I know no one would dare try to duplicate. So I mean, I got nothing to worry. That's why I don't worry too much about maybe I'm a little too lenient with my ideas, but the thing is, I'm already working on them. They're already in various degrees of finish. So it's like, if you want to take an idea and go nuts with it, go nuts.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that in itself becomes a brand, a flavor of what you do. Like when people pick up your work, they'll go, "Oh, well, of course it is." Like, look how fucked up this is. Yeah, it's stuff like this. Yeah, that's fun. Then you're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, that's great.
Well,
I totally feel you.
Well, man, you just cracked me up there. It's like this is fucked up. And I'm like, well, okay, it wasn't quite what I was going for.
Ones too, like there's some beats where I read them and I go, man, I hope they love that. Like, I just had so much fun there. I hope they get that feeling that I got just looking at it, because what was really good about this last book is not necessarily that I feel so happy with the writing, but everyone who picked it up afterwards, they added something to it. It snowballed into something bigger than it probably should have been. I mean, like, we had Greg Warrenchak on the pencils.
Yeah.
His pencils are so animated, and it was just so cool to see, and he got so excited with those characters. And then Sean Barber, who co-created it, he came in and he created this inking. He did like a gray wash, and it gives it this painted feel. It's so cool. And then we got Scott Weldon was on the letters and did amazing. Yeah,
I've heard. I've heard of Scott, and he's good. He's good.
He is, man, dude. Harlan Buck is a killer book. It's one of my top 5 indies. Like, he's killing it. I love what he's doing, man. And he's a good dude. Like, he and I talk a fair amount. We're buddies, and he's a good guy, man. He really is. He's someone who you would have his back. Like, he just is just a solid good dude.
Yeah, well, no, that's good. Well, that's the best thing about comics. Comics and TV are both a miracle and a miracle when they work well, because of the number of moving pieces involved. But it's almost like pure magic if you have the right team. When you start as a comic creator, you try to find the best team you can, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all you can hope for. But as you get more experience, knowing again what your voice is, how you can execute and stuff like that, you find people like-minded in some ways, and then you produce these great books, and you're like, this is bigger than what I could have done on my own. And that's the best part about comics.
Oh, I think so too. I totally agree. It's the collaborative nature of comics that make it such an amazing medium. Because, at the end of the day, okay, you have a writer and an editor, and still, one doesn't want to, overshadow the other. So it's kind of mostly the writer doing their thing. It's a very lone thing. But comics, everybody gets to add their fingerprint to it. You see Liefeld's pencils and you go, that's his pencils. But you see sometimes certain characters, the way they speak, and you go, oh damn, that's them. You always have that voice perfectly, and so it just everybody's got their fingerprints, and I love seeing that and the mesh.
Oh yeah, I know, and that's the best part about it. Like when you I'm jealous of those. So we talked to Terry Moore earlier. One man shows, grr, so talented. How dare you? But when you see really creative people just working together and they're just jamming and putting this work together, it's magic. It's almost like music.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're a band.
It's one of my favorite things about being an editor, because you get to work on so many books that you get to watch those teams come together and make some really cool stuff. I'm actually working on a book as an editor. It's called Dulce. The second one's actually on Kickstarter right now. It's a really kick-ass book all about conspiracy theories and stuff. And dude, it's done by Eric Cockrell and Gene Hoyle and
oh wow,
the whole team.
That's a cool creative team
together. Yeah, it's a really good book. It's so fun. It's like
I'm moving to BC. Why are you telling me about these good books I can't buy right now?
You know what I mean? If you want, I'm sure I could get you a digital copy.
Sure. I would love it. I would love it. Just no. And also, by the way, and I'll just say this now: any of your friends want to come on the show, they're invited. I totally don't have a problem with that. After September 30th this month, I'm not going to be taking interviews for the rest of the year, but up until then, I'm fair game.
Okay, I will mention them because, we actually have a couple Kickstarters coming up, Dulce, and then afterwards I have The Advocator, and then some other ones down the road.
Yeah.
Because you, as a freelance editor, there's always something going on.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, I think Kickstarter is one of the best things that ever happened to comics, period. There's a lot more voices out there that are just really, really good and solid. I'm just not mature enough to go on Kickstarter for more than a few days at a time because my money magically disappears when I'm on Kickstarter. My money, it's all gone. Where'd it go?
It's funny because, my number of backed books is getting pretty high, and I'm like, really? I'm spending a lot of money.
No. Whereas for me, because I'm about to move, and also because I've been very creative conscious of what I've been doing. I've made sure that I wouldn't touch those things. I'm not going to be able to do support. I actually might have to suspend my Patreon account short term just until I've adjusted to the move and stuff like that, because that's where I generally support the people. But that's the thing, right? I'm at that point now where it's I just know this. I'm not mature enough for Netflix. I'm not mature enough for Kickstarter. Right? If I go to Kickstarter, it's a seasonal treat. Okay, you got 2 books you can go for. Pick them. So, and don't ignore the protests of your wallet. You've earned this, and that's what I do.
Yeah. I totally feel you there. And, I mean, there's just some where you're like, oh, crap. I know there's been a couple that have come out, and you're like, oh, shit. I'm about to spend money. I know.
It's shut up and take my money has become a thing, and it's true. It's shut up, take my money. Good. Take it now before I regret this.
Oh yeah. No, what was it? Friends of mine, Matt Knowles and Steph Cannon. They just came out with their 11th issue of their book, and so they're putting it into one big graphic novel. and I don't own any of the issues. I was like, oh crap, I'm about to buy this whole damn thing.
You're like, yes, you took my money. And then you're like, how am I eating tomorrow? That's not a problem I need to worry about today. That's tomorrow's problem. I'm just gonna put my money in and try not to cry. Right?
I'm a completionist. I can't have one issue. Like, that moment.
Again, I've become a little bit like it's weird because the older I get, I'm actually becoming more and more a minimalist, which is a weird thing. I love books, right? I do love books, but I've also okay, comic wise, I've read everything I have. Great. Novel wise, not so true. So, comic wise, my question is, what books do I have will I reread down the road? Right? And those are the books, and I'm actually doing this right now. Those are the books I'm going to keep. What are the books I'm collecting right now? Those are the books I'm going to keep. But when everything else is going to be like, well, am I going to read this ever again? And if I'm not, what should I do with it? And and I actually find it's actually not. So this is what happens when I do this. So this is how this works. I end up with more than what I had to start with. Because for some reason, when I give away, I get more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because a lot of times people want to trade, and they,
Yeah.
I feel you. I think the best thing to do is either donate them to someone else. Like, hey man, if you're a comic fan, I got some really good books. I just need them out of my life. Would you like to check them out and get someone else into the fandom?
Yeah.
Or there's also those mystery boxes that they sell at the conventions all the time, where there's just random comics in there.
Yes.
And so I'm sure, I actually have,
That's actually a good idea.
Like a con family, and so there's one of the mystery box guys. He and I are very close, and we're close. At least we know each other whenever we see each other, and we always have a good time when we get together. And so, I would donate them to him and just be like, dude, make some money off them, man. There's not a lot I can do. Go ahead, take care of them, and especially if they're lower indies and whatnot, where nobody would even necessarily know the name. You're getting them a new audience. That's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad. That's not a bad idea. I might even do this in my. I'll eBay the ones that I think will make some money because I'm going to have to move. But the ones I can't get rid of, actually, it's not a bad idea. It's like, hey, let's go. Maybe when it's over, you just give me his contact info. So let's see here. We've gone all over the place. Let's go. So Belial is your current baby. So where did this come from? What's the story behind this story?
So what's really cool is my anchor from my first series, Welcome to the Void. He and I were talking about stories and stuff, and he's an inker. And the thing is that he's not very confident in his voice. And he's got some really cool ideas. And so, we were talking one night, and he's like, I have this story I really want to tell. I'm like, oh, okay, well, then you should tell it. And he's like, no, I really want someone to give it that writer's edge. And I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, so what's up? So he tells me about, he was reading Dante's Inferno or something like that. And he found out with this character, Belial. And Belial is basically the original creator of hell. And so he had this really cool idea of Belial taking hell back from Satan. And I was like, that's a cool idea. And I let it kind of play in my head for a little bit. And I was like, give me a night, and I'll get back to you with something, like a treatment or something. And I'll throw you some of my ideas and see what you think. And he was like, okay, cool. So I was so excited by the idea. I just thought it was really cool. So I took care of that, and I wrote it. The problem is that my grandfather, the man I was named after, was an Anglican priest.
Ha!
And so, and my mother, my family were not brutally Christian, but we believe in God, and we have respect for that stuff. And so, if I believe in an ultimate good, I believe in an ultimate evil. They kind of have to go together in my mind. And so, to me, that means that there'd be a thing. If you're willing to believe in angels, the other side has to be there too. And so, I didn't want to write something that would make someone want to become a Satanist, you know? And I'm like, I don't want to glorify it. And I was telling this cool story, but I wanted to find a way to not glorify it. And so when he checked it out, he loved the treatment, and he said, yeah, man, can you write this? Can we make this happen? And we work something out? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I wrote it, and as soon as I started writing it, it became a comedy. And it's just because of something my mom had kind of always told me, and that is, in order to best combat evil, you have to laugh at its absurdity.
There's truth in that. There's truth in that. No, I was thinking about the whole concept of what rebellion is not too long ago, and one of the things about that was, to me, was the fact that honestly, anger is not the answer. No, anger might be the first step in rebellion, like an injustice or something bad happening to you. But the problem with anger is much like fire. It burns, but eventually the anger dies. And when the anger dies, if you got nothing else to go on, you die with it. It's like fire. Once it's put out, you're done. You need to find joy. Because not happiness. The thing about happiness is all about fulfilling, is about fulfilling an expectation. Joy, on the other hand, is that moment of appreciation of those little things. If you have a significant other, they say, I love you. You have a kid, they say, I love you. Maybe get a hug, maybe a handshake from a friend, maybe a high five, some kind of like the little things we take for granted that creates those feelings of joy. Right? That is how you truly rebel. Because if you can find joy in anything, right? If you find joy in anything, you can actually, you no longer are under the control, whatever the opposing force is, it no longer has full control over you anymore. Because now you've stepped outside of it, because you have found that place where it can't touch you.
I feel like both joy and anger, they're in the spectrum, for me, just personally, my thought process, they're in the spectrum of passion.
Yes.
So really what it becomes is that you have to be passionate about whatever that is for it to truly matter.
Yes.
And so, sometimes that passion means that you end up being both. Sometimes, I've been with my wife for 20 years.
Yeah.
We're celebrating our 20th anniversary.
Happy anniversary, man.
On the 12th.
Happy anniversary.
And
yeah.
Thank you very much. And it's been amazing. Like she's my editor. She's my one love. Like we have a great thing going on. And the thing is that when you truly love someone, you become impassioned enough that sometimes you're going to be angry at them. Sometimes I piss her off. Sometimes she pisses me off.
Yep.
But if I didn't get pissed off at her, then it would mean that I don't give a shit on a certain level.
No, absolutely.
And so, sometimes in order to love something, you gotta get fucking angry at it.
Oh no.
Because you care and it's not going the way you want it to.
I'm not saying that anger is not a necessary tool. It is. It can't be your only tool though. Because if that's all you got, you got nothing.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Because, and you were saying it earlier, when you likened it to a fire, I like that.
Yeah.
But another aspect of that is that if you keep fueling that anger, that fire, what it becomes is chaotic. It becomes a wildfire, and you don't know where it could take you.
Absolutely.
And it can take you to some scary, dangerous places. And so that's why you need joy in your life. You're absolutely right. You need that joy in your life to douse those flames, to spread goodness.
To spread goodness, and also, again, to be free. Because I think anger anger is the path that opens the door to rebellion. But joy is actually, I think, how you walk through it.
I think that's a very good way of putting it.
Yeah. Because anger, you're still, I'm not trying to denigrate anger here when I say this. It's just anger in and of itself is a good way to wake up. It wakes you up. It makes you aware of what's going on, and the injustice of it, or the unfairness of it, strikes a chord that is very necessary. But you're still imprisoned to whatever that oppression, my impression, that unfairness, that injustice, whatever you want to call it, is. When you find joy, there's the path to freedom. Even though you may not be completely through whatever it is you're going through at that point, like I said earlier, it's just you're no longer under its control. It's more the other way around. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. Yeah.
Yeah. You need both, though. You are absolutely right. You do need both. You have to have both. You have to have both fires in order to properly function.
Yeah, but you just have to remember that both of them have their uses, their tools, almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, at any particular time, one is going to be more useful than the other.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That is absolutely correct. So, going back to the comedy thing. So, I got to ask this. Comedy's hard, right? Comedy is actually, I find, a lot harder to write than, say, drama, because comedy, not everybody gets your jokes.
Yes.
So, how were your lessons in comedy? What have you learned about writing comedy? Since you said that this is maybe a dark comedy, but a comedy nonetheless.
So, yeah, for me, comedy's been a part of my life since I was very young. Even as a young boy, and I'm talking like age 9, I would sneak into the living room and watch my parents' sitcoms with them. I'd be watching like early Cheers episodes and Night Court and even older comedies and stuff, Three's Company, all that kind of stuff. And of course I didn't understand everything, but I understood that it made a laugh. And as I continued to watch it over time, I started to get those gears, and I'd get, they did this, they spoke like this, they used this timbre in their voice, they did this with their body, and those things elicited laughs. And so over time, I picked up on as much of that as I could, and then studied comedy in high school and whatnot. I was part of a professional, not quite Second City, but improv team. And so studied comedy, I've always loved it, and just didn't really get the chance to write it too much. And so when I sat down to do this, I really got to write and get that stuff out and kind of envision it in my head, direct it, and that was a lot of fun.
Okay, so I got one more question. I think we're going to say that I think we have a decent interview here. I don't know. I'm a poor judge of this. Maybe you agree it's a good interview or not. But the question
I'm having a great time.
Yeah. What did you learn writing this book? Because it sounds to me like this was in some ways a rediscovery for you. Even though you've always done comedy, this is your chance to actually play with it on a written page.
Josh, that's a really good question. You know what? I learned to trust myself. With the first book I came out with, it was Welcome to the Void, and it was me kind of stepping up and being very serious. I'm going to come out and I'm going to show you how well I can make a story and how intertwined I can get. And then I was like, you can't make books quick enough for anybody to see that shit, dude. You don't have that kind of money. And I didn't hate. I love the book, and I'm still working on it, and I'm making more issues. But Belial was me, being me. My personality came out on the page, and that's what it was. And I just got to be me. There was no trying to prove anything. There was no trying to reinvent the wheel or anything. I was just writing on a page and saying, this is what's in my fucking head. This is, on a daily basis, the kind of shit that would pop into my head. And if you like it, then maybe you'd enjoy the rent up there. But if you don't, that's okay too. I'm not for everybody.
This sounds like this book taught you how to be comfortable with you.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it really did.
So I'm curious. I'm sure you're going to be doing more of Belial down the road, But I'm really curious what your next project will feel like, because I feel like this project is giving you permission to go into other places.
Yeah, it really is. It's funny. It's funny because it really has. And my next project is the next issue, Welcome to the Void, which everything. I feel like everything I do, it's kind of getting almost raw. You know, I'm even when I do my reviews and stuff. The one thing, like we were talking earlier about anger and joy, and when I'm talking with my audience, when I'm trying to do it, I want them to see the joy.
Yes.
I want them to see that more than the anger. Every once in a while, I might come on a topic where it needs a little bit of anger. But for the most part, I really want to show the joy. And so, like when I do reviews, I've only had to do this a couple times, but I've had to tell people, I can't review this book. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I want my channel to be about books that I enjoy and that I can help to show to a new audience. And I didn't enjoy this, and I don't think I can share it with an audience, and I don't want to do that to you. I think we can all use the leg up. It doesn't mean that I will tell you that a book is good when it sucks ass. It just means if for me it's not good, then I just won't talk about it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, and also any asshole can be angry. Joy, like in terms of emotional spectrum. Okay, drama is the easiest thing to write. Comedy is in the middle, and joy is the hardest because joy sounds hokiest. It sounds the absolute hokiest of them all. If it's done, unless it's done well, if it's done perfectly well, you disarm people. You just totally disarm them, and it's amazing to watch that happen because then at that moment you actually see the real person come out, and it's like, yes, I have destroyed your cynicism. And I actually enjoy that.
It's hard to fake joy.
Yeah.
True joy, you feel that with him, and you go, oh, that was fun.
Exactly.
And it's really hard to fake.
Yeah. I feel at some point at a convention we need to hang out. I really do. I think we'd have fun.
I would love that, absolutely. Right now I'm mostly doing conventions down here in Texas, but my plan has always been to go home. And I know that Calgary has a good fan expo, right?
We do. Although I won't be in Calgary at the next fan expo. I'll be in Vancouver. So.
Ooh. I'm BC. So yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, no. It's just one of those things where I just realized for myself, like, I'm ready to grow and change and move out of my comfort zone a little bit. And so for me, British Columbia is let's go out of our comfort zone. Let's fucking do this and see where it goes. And if I get my ass kicked, oh well, I've got my ass kicked. It wouldn't be the first time in this life, and that's fine. But I'm more interested in who I can become, and the only way I can do that is sometimes you gotta take a leap. That's just how it works. That's just how it works. That all said, I would love to do a show in Texas or Nevada. I've done Phoenix Con in Arizona. That one's a great con. So maybe somewhere down the road, maybe even next year. But I'll definitely have some more stuff to get to promote. Maybe we'll run each other at the same con and we'll get the goof off.
I would love that so much.
Yeah. But I do feel we have an interview, good sir. So why don't we get to the fun stuff where you get to promote your book and how people can find you?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, I'm Chuck Pineau. I'm a freelance writer and editor. My books are Welcome to the Void and Belial, and they're from my own company, Bonfire Press. You can find us on Facebook at Bonfire Press. You can find me as Chuck Pineau, Pineau, and you can also find me on Twitter at ChuckyPin.
All right.
This podcast for this month is sponsored by Third Space. It is a comedy world-building podcast in which your hosts, Kevin Weir and Jeremy Berkeley, create worlds based on tropes and concepts from movies, television, video games, books, and more. What does that mean exactly? It means you can expect worlds where humans level up, mascots are real, animals grant riches, and Skeletor wants you to rise up against the bourgeois. Why? Just cuz. It's also home to the Third Space World Generator, where using the power of the RNGesus from the internet, Kevin and Jeremy create brand new worlds from scratch. Third Space can be found on thirdspacepodcast.com or on the podcast app of your choice. And that was my conversation with Chuck Pineau. Chuck, thanks very much for coming on my show, man. You're welcome back anytime. It was a thrill to have you. I had a blast. I know you did too. So there are more Aurora interviews. I'm only going to have one more revealed before episode 300 and probably later on down the road. Randy McCharles is my guest next Monday. It's going to be, or I should say next Tuesday. It's going to be blast. Randy is doing a really cool thing, and that'll be great. I do have more, but some of those will appear later on down the line upon their request, actually. So I'm going to honor that. But I wanted to say real quick here before I wrap up, congratulations to each and every one of the Aurora finalists. I hope you guys all succeed. It is truly an honor to be nominated, and it was a pleasure to share that company with you. Beyond all that, guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so a number of different ways. For starters, you can support my sponsors, Indie Imprint, Claudio Morgan, and Third Space Podcast. They each are doing cool things. Indie Imprint's your one-stop shop if you're an independent creator. Claudio Morgan is releasing his science fiction database. And Third Space Podcast is a great show by Jeremy Berkeley and Kevin Weir. Truly awesome to be a part of that. Beyond that, subscribe to the podcast. iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. Subscribe, leave reviews, share the podcast as much as you can. Outside of that, my merchandise, jpantelleresco.redbubble.com. You can get the Sparkle t-shirt and more. On top of that, you can get my books, Watch the Storm Dance and Wandering God, CarcyMarrowPublishing.com. My YouTube is Joshua Pantelleresco. My Instagram and Twitter is at jpantelleresco. My Facebook page is Joshua Pantelleresco, author, podcaster. Come say hello. But above all else, guys, stay inspired out there, and I'll talk to you soon.
Josh.